No time for the normal intro. I'm trying to get this video out as soon as possible. I know that some of you have already started your projects and I want to get this information out to you. So this is going to be a video talking about some of the new procedures on using the templates and putting together your pieces for the right and left ear modules. And so without any more delay, let's get on with the video. By the way, the real important stuff starts about 22 minutes into the video. So you can skip ahead to that if you need to, and then you can always come back later for the earlier parts. Okay, so I've printed out the templates right here. And the first thing I want to do with these is, I printed these out at 100%, so I'm going to take a ruler. Because I'm going to use these templates along with another set of templates, I want to make sure that they're good. So I'm looking, I've got my ruler out here and I'm comparing the 9 inches here, and I can see that we're good at 1 and 2, pretty good at 3, but after 3 we're starting to get off, and we stay off all the way to 9. But even across 9 inches, you can see that we're only off about a 32nd of an inch. So, you know, if it's only off by something like a 32nd or even a 16th over 9 inches, that's easily within your the tolerance of your printer, and that's going to be fairly consistent. So I'm not too worried about that. So that looks pretty good. I have 2 templates that I'm going to use for this job. And the other thing that you could do, so here I've got my two templates lined up in front of a bright light so that I can see through the cardstock that I printed on, and I can see that everything is the same all the way across. Everything lines up, so I know these are going to be perfect. These are both the same scale. They're going to work great together, so I'm going to go ahead and cut them out, and then we'll go on from there. Okay, so I have my templates all pinned down, and in fact I have already outlined all of these pieces, but I want to show you the way I have them cut out so that you can mark all of the lines. This is all on pieces of 1/4 inch thick wood. That's 0.635 centimeters if you're using the metric system. So I've already outlined these. Now I just need to get to the inside lines. So I've just basically cut these into 2 pieces. I can pull this piece off, and now I can draw the rest of the lines. Same goes for these others. As for which piece comes off, it kind of depends on which half has the cleaner edge. And this one's okay. Actually, there's one thing I need to do on this one. I have an awl. You can also use a nail or even a thumbtack. But I just need to transfer this point so that you know precisely where to drill the hole. And for this piece, I basically cut a line here and here, and then folded it here. It helps if you take your X-Acto knife and just very lightly score the back across where this line is. That'll help it fold precisely. So now I can mark this. And I suppose I could have done that same thing for the these side pieces. Maybe the next time I will, but I didn't this time, so let's go ahead and remove these pins. Okay, and I've also put some little V cuts right here so that I can mark where this line goes, as well as that, so I can go ahead and take my straight edge . Okay. And if you'll notice on this piece here, the only thing different about it is this piece of wood is just a little bit too small for the pattern, but the only part that's sticking over is this little piece where I've rounded off this little edge here so that this won't just go straight into the trim. And it's not that important, so what I'll do is I'll just make that a smaller radius to blend in a little bit. Because all you're really trying to do there is not make it you know, a 90-degree angle. You just want to kind of blend those together so that it looks, things that are perceived as strong and hard tend to have rounded corners. They're not sharp and jagged usually. So by softening that connection point, it'll give the illusion that the helmet is, you know, a stronger metal. It's just a matter of cutting these pieces out of the wood now. I'm going to do that with my little handheld jigsaw or skill saw. One last thing before I cut these out, I forgot to mention. If you see here, what I've done is I've taken this piece and I've flipped it over onto the back of the template just so that these edges would line up and I could save a little bit of wood. Otherwise I would have had to space these a lot further. So I've marked on here to mark the other side of the wood so that I can make sure that that's the side that I have as up. But since this is just a 1/4 inch thick piece of wood, I can cut it on either side. And this just saves me a little bit of wood. Okay, so I'll see you as soon as I cut these out. I've cut most of the pieces out now. This is the second level of the left ear module, and I used it after I cut it out to cut out a second piece because I don't have any 1/2 inch thick wood. So I have to glue these two 1/4 inch pieces together. And I went ahead and cut out and rounded this part here, but I left this part that needs to come out until after I can glue this piece onto it. So I guess it's time to talk about glue. If you have time, and by that I mean 24 hours, then wood glue is going to be your best choice. I like this Titebond 3, but any type of wood glue is going to be your best choice there. The problem with that, of course, is that it takes time. If you're going to sand on it and put it under stress, then it really needs 24 hours before you can do any of that. I'm using the barge cement. The problem with that is if I was just attaching these things down, it would be fine. But since I'm going to sand through both layers, the barge cement has a much thicker layer of glue, and it's probably going to show up in some way. It's much more likely to be visible, whereas the wood glue will give you a invisible seam. You'll never be able to tell where the two pieces of wood are separate. The difference is I can use the barge cement and continue on with this project in, say, 20 minutes, whereas the wood glue is going to take 24 hours. I guess a good in between would be Gorilla Glue, not the Gorilla brand super glue, but the real Gorilla Glue that you have to use, that you wet the surface of the wood and then put it on, because I think that only needs an hour or 2 hours at the most, I think, to cure completely. So that would be a really good option as well if you are short on time. The problem is I don't have any. Gorilla Glue, although it works really good, I like the fact that it expands to fill any voids. It holds extremely well, but the two problems it has is that it kind of, because it expands, it bleeds out all over the seams, and you've got to clean all of that off. And the other problem is that it has a very short life in the bottle. If once you open it, it's very once it's opened, even if you squeeze all the air out, it still has a limited life, so I always have a hard time keeping it. But I've used the barge cement just so I can quickly get through this, and I've already glued everything up with a second layer, which is dried. If you use the barge cement, you want to do as absolutely thin layers of glue as you can. But now that I have these, I'm going to go ahead and glue them together. Try to kind of muscle them into position before I squeeze. Okay, and here is this piece, and I used my speed square to kind of continue this line around to the back so I could see exactly where I want this piece to attach. And you really want to do everything that you can to make sure that that lines up perfectly. You have this piece, and then this will be the top piece, and you want this to actually fit snugly right up against the whole thing so that you get one solid piece of 1/2 inch thick wood here. And this piece I need to go ahead and glue up the same as I did for this one. Because once again, I just don't have anything that's a 1/2 inch thick. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece out, and I'll see you after that. Everything is glued up and cut out. I have this piece is now a 1/2 inch. So is the second layer of the left. And the top layer of the right. You can see how it has those two pieces now that line up with this part of the line. I will say, especially for these pieces here that are just 1/2 inch thick now, you're probably better off gluing those as a larger piece and then cutting them out. Glue two pieces of 1/4 inch thick together first, and then cut it out. Nothing really about this one. Nothing interesting anyway. Now about the right and left ears, the first level. I went ahead and rounded this top edge of just the winglet because it's going to have to be done at some point, and it's probably a lot easier to do that now here than it is when it's on the helmet. Just be sure and don't round off any area where it's going to glue to something else, like the bottom where it glues to the helmet. You want that to be 90 degrees. This top part here where it glues to the rest of the earpiece, and also this top piece here where the 1/2 inch trim comes in here. That also needs to be 90 degrees. Otherwise, if you round those at all, you're going to end up with a gap between the pieces. So now I just need to start the process of shaping these. And I'm going to do it the exact same way that I did in the video. Now I got this to do. Get a sanding stick and lay it on the ground and do this. You do the same thing with a file. That's probably going to be your best way to do it, unless you use the belt sander, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to hit this with a belt sander real quick, and I'll be right back. So a few seconds on the belt sander, and here's what I've got. From the very end there to this line that goes across here, that's what you want to bevel. Got a little bit of material there, but you'll never be able to tell. Okay. Next one. I'm going to go ahead and match that same bevel that I just made on the other piece on this one. I'm going to go ahead and use my speed square to transfer these lines. A little bit more. There we go. I'm going to do the exact same thing as I did on the other one. And use a saw to cut these sides, and then I'll come in and sand the rest. This is an end grain where all the grain's going, you know, this direction. And this is the end, so it's a little bit tougher to work with. And here's the final product. You can see with it being twice as thick and having the steeper edges, it's just going to be a much more dramatic piece than the piece that we did in the video itself. Now I just have to do the same thing to this one. Okay, so we have this done. Now I just got to sand this little bevel in. Since this is the last piece I have to sand on or file on here, I think maybe I'll set up the camera so you can watch me do the belt sander. You see, I can see that it's cutting more. I can see that it's cutting more on this side than that side, so I need to put a little bit more pressure on that side. So that actually looks pretty good to me. Maybe come a little bit further down. This up here looks pretty good, but this edge out here can come down a little more. Alright, that works for me. Okay, so here are the pieces. They're not glued up, they're just kind of laying there. And the left doesn't look bad. But I'm not very happy with the way the right turned out. If you see it from the side, it's kind of one-dimensional, or two-dimensional. So it's kind of two-dimensional. If you look what we had before, it at least, this part at least stood out from it. Where now it's kind of flush. So on top of that, when you put this trim piece in place, I don't know if you can kind of see that, but the wood's actually sticking up a little bit higher than it is, and that's not going to work at all, especially since the foam is flexible and compressible and the wood isn't. So I'm going to call an audible right now and change everything up midstream. And I'm going to go with the first layer pieces on 1/8 inch instead of 1/4 inch, and then we'll add a second piece in under here. So I'll talk about that more in a second. So here's the plan. This is out, and I've marked the first level on this thinner, half as thick piece of 1/8 inch wood, and using my template here, I just lined it up so that it's just this top part here and not the part that's going to bevel, and use that to mark up this second piece of 1/8 inch, so that what we'll have is so what we have is an 1/8 inch first level, and then this stuff stays the same, and I'll put this second piece of 1/8 inch in. That way when we put the second and third level above, we'll get some difference in height. Do this before it falls. So you can see that now this extra height here gives us a little dimension. Plus the base will only be 1/8 of an inch high, so it won't stick up above the trim, and it won't stick out from the helmet too far. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut that out, and we'll get on the process again. So here's what it looks like with the 1/8 of an inch first layer instead of 1/4 of an inch. And you can see that if I put the trim piece in there, it's going to work much better. Let me drop this down a bit. Okay, now you can kind of see the actual relief of it. So I'm much happier with that. And again, it's just the same as it was before, only this is now 1/8 of an inch, and then you cut this one piece out that is 1/8 of an inch. And you get that shape just by using your top level template without the part that has the bevel on it, the back bevel. Okay, I think I'll show you a couple of pictures, one of the new way of doing it, and compare that with the way it was before with the 1/4 inch first layer. So if you're watching this video, you've got a leg up on everyone else. So they're all going to do it differently, and you can make yours better. So let's glue this all together, and we'll think about painting it. Kind of a sidebar here, but the kind of wood that you want to use, you want to get pine if you can find it. I know that Hobby Lobby sells pine in 1/4 and 1/8 inch thick pieces. But if you cannot get pine and you're stuck with balsa wood or basswood, try and get the basswood. It's quite a bit stronger, but even so, you're probably going to want to support it when you're putting it in the vise. I just have a piece of 1/4 inch here to fill in this gap, and I've got another piece, I guess it's an 1/8 inch piece, in here behind it. That'll just keep this from flexing so much when you're trying to work on it. The pine just works a lot better if you can find it, but if not, go with the basswood. The balsa wood is especially, I mean, you can get away with it for this piece here, but as far as the first level, you're kind of using that to keep the helmet rigid, and it's just got too much flex, especially at 1/8 of an inch. It's not going to do much. So the basswood's much more rigid, but if you can, use pine. If you've got a table saw, use, cut pine or something stronger. I know that you can actually online, you can buy hardwoods in 1/4 and 1/8 inch pieces as well. It's gonna be a little more expensive, and it's, they're hardwoods, so they'll be a little bit harder to work with, but they'll be a lot stronger as well. So enough of that, and we'll get back to work. Okay, I have all the pieces here, and I'm going to glue them together using the barge cement, because at this point I'm just attaching them to each other, and the barge cement is going to allow me to just stick them on there and not have to worry about any clamps or anything like that. If you use the wood glue at this point, you'd have to clamp everything up. It would be moving around, trying to find room for the clamps without damaging anything. Trust me, the barge cement will be much better for this part. So let's just start assembling. This already has the 2 coats of barge cement on there. They're dry to just a little tacky stage, so they're ready to go. Just a matter of carefully lining up one edge. And then putting it in place. Now, if this looks a little different than it did before, I'll be honest with you, I noticed online that several of you had started your projects already, and I wanted to get this video out quickly, and I accidentally, my hand slipped and I destroyed the previous piece on the disc sander. Not destroyed it, but I took a big cut out of it. So that was on a Sunday, and I had to run out to Michael's to get some new wood, the 1/8 inch stuff, and all they had was basswood and balsa wood. So this is basswood, so you can see that it is possible to use the basswood. Now on this piece right here, this is the 1/8 inch spacer that I'm putting in right here so that this will end up higher up. If you really want a lot of difference in the heights here, you can go with a 1/4 inch if you really want to. I'm going with the 1/8 of an inch just because I don't want the overall height of this to be close to 1 inch sticking out. But it's up to you. If you want that extra relief, then go ahead and go with the 1/4 inch piece instead of the 1/8 inch piece. It's totally up to you. Now I'm going to go ahead and have to put some barge cement on here, and when I get that ready to put this piece on, I'll be back. Okay, these have both had 2 coats and they're ready to put on just like the others. I start out with a corner. Oh, that's the wrong spot now that I realize it. Needs to line up with the top. It does really help to draw your part on there, the outline, so that you know precisely where it's going to go, so you don't make a mistake like I almost did. And if you notice, I have the centerpiece marked on this spacer. And if you end up forgetting to do that, don't worry about it. Just flip the piece over, take your pattern, and put it upside down and just lay it onto your piece. and mark the back side of it. You can drill your hole that way. This piece doesn't get glued on because you can't put that on until we actually put the arm on. But here we have it. I think it's closer to what the actual piece looks like, the actual prop, and the extra steeper angles here because of the extra height are going to make it look better. I'll probably make a separate video just to finish this out and paint it. I also have an idea about how I want to attach this other than glue it, so that you can actually have access to the screw that holds the arm on if you need to. But I want to go ahead and get this out as quickly as possible so that those of you that have already started your project will have access to the information. So after just a little bit of cleaning up the edges and everything, here are the two pieces. I think they definitely look better than the versions that I did in the video itself. Now, as far as gluing, I just want to go over this again. What I would do is, the day before you want to start this part of the project, maybe right before you start putting together the main part of the helmet in foam, take your 1/4-inch pieces and using wood glue and clamps, glue up some pieces like this that you can then use your pattern to determine which size pieces are, but then take your pattern and draw out your pattern from there. That way these will have a good 24 hours to dry and be good and solid. When you do the final assembly, I would definitely use the barge cement so that you don't have to clamp things up and worry about things moving around on you. And for this spacer piece, just use either 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, depending on how much above this you want it to be. I'm pretty happy with that, but I can see why, I can see how some people might want it to be another 1/8 of an inch thicker, further out, so it'd be like that. The downside of that is that now it's sticking that much further out from the helmet. I don't know if I like that or not. And so there you have it. I hope this helps. I hope this video was helpful and that I got it to you in time before you got to this part of your build. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. Surely by now you've subscribed, but if not, please do. I've got a lot more projects coming up, including Boba Fett's armor, which I know has been requested twice now. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.